and Tara that's exactly alike. They drink the same coffee, they have the same great job, and they both have a high-quality education. The only difference? Sarah spent her first 2 years at Carroll Community College, getting the same exceptional education, but at less than half the cost. So while Tara uses her paycheck to make student loan payments, Sarah can use hers for other things, like going out for coffee. Get started at carrollcc.edu.
Carroll Indoor Sports Center, celebrating its 30th season. 66,000 square feet of fields and courts. Rain or shine, multiple soccer and lacrosse leagues. Artificial turf fields and courts to rent. Party rooms and snack bar available. Summer camp for the kids. Safe indoor environment for athletes of all ages. Carroll Indoor Sports Center. Your sport, anytime.
CMSportsNet is made possible by Carroll Links, Carroll Indoor Sports Center, and Independent Car Service. The Central Maryland Sports Network is a programming service of the Community Media Center.
Hello everyone, I'm Pat Stoetzer and welcome back to Game On, or should I say a new version of Game On. Joining me in the studio today, Nathan Schwartz, and for this episode we'll call it a little bit of a pilot of sorts. We're going to break down what looks to be a very exciting night, Nathan, coming up this Friday of high school playoff football. Two teams have made it to the state semifinals, Liberty in Class 2A, 1A, and Westminster in Class 3A. It's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting for the county that two teams are going to be representing Carroll County in the state semifinals this weekend. It says a lot about how the county has grown. Of course, Liberty got their second chance, but they made the most of that second chance. And I think that is what speaks volumes about where they're at right now in the season. And Westminster's been dominant all year. That only one blemish the first week in a neutral site game, you know, switching the days and all that. A lot of adversity at the beginning for them. So it's really interesting to see how both of these teams have gotten to this point, but they're both only one game away from the state championship.
Yeah, let's start with Liberty. The Lions have had quite the path, as Nathan said, to make their first ever state semifinal appearance, and they're getting ready to host Lackey, Henry E. Lackey, on Friday night in the Class 2A, 1A state semifinals. We're going to go ahead and look at some of the highlights from the game last week that, Nathan, you got a chance to take in at Hereford. You were texting us all night. You were using words like wild, chaos, crazy, points galore. We'll see a little bit of that. Fake punts. I mean, you had almost everything in the game, and Liberty was able to come out on top and shock Hereford in overtime and make history.
I love offense personally. So this game was perfect for me. And right off the bat, I mean, you knew that this was going to be wild when plays like this were happening. This was right after Hereford not only faked a punt on their first possession, but then downed it all the way inside of the 5-yard line. They force a fumble, and you know that it's going to be wild from the jump pad.
Yeah, did it feel that way right from the beginning? You were telling us about it, and we were watching the Clip Zone highlights. Just the fact that it was back and forth, score. Not a lot of defense, but both teams giving each other body blows.
It had that weird feeling of, at the beginning, it felt like it was going to be a very quick game because that opening drive for Hereford was about half of the first quarter. But then, as you see here, they get that touchdown. Then Liberty has the long kickoff. Kern runs it in, and just 2 minutes after that, it's 7-7. And then 2 plays later, this happens.
Well, this is a crazy play, right?
And this is. You talk about wild, right? This is just absurd. That's Jaquan Burton for Hereford going 42 yards, somehow staying in bounds right there. My jaw was on the floor. I had some of the Liberty coaches next to me up in the crow's nest, as they call it at Hereford. They couldn't believe it either.
But the Lions stayed with it.
Right. And they make another great play of their own. Stephen Puckett's been doing this all year. I believe that was 65 yards. That's the longest pass for Brian Peters, the freshman quarterback this season, in the 4 games that he's been the starter for Liberty. And this is where I really felt a turning point, and this game is going to take a long time to conclude. This is about a 2.5, 3-hour game. This is Ben Sheldon going,
bounds,
I believe that was 65 or 70 yards on the next play for Hereford. And I mean, just, again, big play after big play after big play, Pat. Both teams were relentless in their effort to score.
And you mentioned Brian Peters. We had Sean Kay start the season. He gets a little dinged up, and he has to go in. Peters does. Gets them a playoff win on the road at Williamsport. And then comes out here and gets a win. I know the Middletown game. We can talk about that in a few minutes. But 2 big wins, and we're still watching some of the highlights here, but good poise from a 9th grader, a freshman who's his first varsity action.
It's unbelievable, and it's really impressed me how the offense really hasn't, faltered at all, if anything. And this is nothing against Sean Case, but it's elevated. And, when Coach Luth is making decisions like this, they've had some plays like this. We were talking right before we came on about how they did a play like that, I believe, in the FSK game.
Danny Nelson,
where they faked the punt. This is the next play. And this is what I'm talking about. You capitalize on some of those big plays. You go from the fake punt and another Peters Puckett touchdown.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do to win a playoff game like this. And this is where my jaw might have been on the floor.
Again,
right? This is 3 minutes left in the game. Hereford had been able to run the ball efficiently. They hadn't had to throw too much. Griffin Walter, the quarterback, fumbles the snap. And then Austin Decker with 43 seconds. All but you think seals the game for Liberty.
At this point, right?
Yeah. And I said this when I made the highlights, but not so fast, right? I mean, here comes Walter again. After making that crucial mistake, he's able to throw it up, a big-time play for Schilling.
And a big catch.
Down inside the 30-yard line. There was a pass interference penalty after this, which we won't show you, but that was huge to get Hereford into field goal range to where they hit this field goal to send us into overtime.
As time expired, correct? So big kick there for Hereford. So if you're a fan, we had, just watching these was great. I imagine being in the stands was awesome. Then Hereford scores on their first possession in overtime. So now the Bulls have the momentum. What can the Lions do? I just talked about poise with Peters. Talk about this drive here because we got to, a 4th down, I think?
So high school overtime, you start at the 10-yard line. First down, Liberty actually scored on the first play of overtime. It was Weddle that scored the touchdown, but there was a holding penalty. This was third and goal from the 20.
Right, incomplete
Puckett
pass.
barely got that foot out of bounds, so now it's 4th down. This is your last chance, right?
The season.
And remember, it's a freshman to Peters. He throws a beauty into the end zone for Weddle. Makes a great play. We saw this in the Winners Mill game, Pat, earlier in the season where Coach Luth decided to go for it for the win. That was not in overtime, though. This was in overtime. Kevin Kern, the do-it-all player for Liberty on both sides, sends Liberty to their first state semifinal appearance in school history.
I mean, just crazy. They weren't even supposed to be there. Technically, They lost to Middletown the week before, 51-7. Middletown plays a player that was ineligible. The rules, we've talked about this, the rules are you forfeit the game, Liberty moves on. It's not Liberty's fault they're moving on, but a crazy week. The Lions get 3 days to prepare to go to Hereford. Hereford thinks they're playing Middletown for the first 2 days of the week, and then they have to go, so they get to play on that Saturday night. I just wanted to add in a postscript. Saturday night, 9:30 or so, I got a text from Coach Luth, and it said, "You knew I was going for 2." And I just laughed and told him, "Absolutely, Coach." I mean, you've seen it now up close and personal.
Yeah.
We saw it, like you said, during the season. It's just a crazy way to win a game, and we'll get into the second game in a moment. But this game, a statement win and a historic win for them to get to the state semifinals. The Lions are going to go into this game riding high.
Yeah, and it's one of the best playoff football games, I think, out of the entire MPSSAA bracket so far. And these are 2 of the guys on the defensive side that are really going to make the difference, in my opinion, to whether Liberty can win or lose on Friday when they play Lackey. Frothingham and Nelson on the defensive side of the ball. You saw those 2 guys make plays on special teams, but they can do it on defense as well. 2 of the top leading tacklers in Carroll County. Nelson's in the backfield quite a bit. Frothingham had that big first playoff game against Williamsport.
Yeah. And then the team stats going into the game. So Lackey, you see the record. They started, I believe, they're from Charles County, Southern Maryland, 7-5. I believe they started 0-3 on the field, and then they lost the 4th game, week 4, but got a forfeit win. So took the Warriors a little time to get going. And you can tell, Nathan, the points for and points against pretty close. 246, I think it was for Lackey. Liberty, 236 and 239. So they're a -3 point differential. Who cares? They're in the state final four.
Yeah, who cares, right? And Lackey's an interesting team. Just looking at their schedule, you're right. They started 0-3, then they get the forfeit win. They went 4-5 in the regular season. This is not a team that was all that dominant, but they've gone on this crazy run in the playoffs. They beat Kent Island. They lost to Calvert 42-0 in the regular season at home. Then they beat them 20-14 at Calvert on the road in the playoffs. How does that make any sense?
You can't make sense of that.
And then they beat the number 1 seed Sparrows Point convincingly last week on the road, the 1-8 matchup in the quarterfinals. So I can't make any sense of Lackey's season. What I do know is they have a really couple talented players, including Tyson Swan on the defensive line. He's the number 2 ranked player in Maryland for the class of 2028. So you're talking about a guy that has offers from Alabama, Georgia, the top dogs in college football, and of course the University of Maryland, go Terps. But a guy that's going to be a national player to watch in a couple of years at the collegiate level. He's going to be playing at the Lions Den on Friday.
You can't say top dogs in Maryland in the same sense, but I get what you're saying. They're still a top dog around here. Tyson Wallace, his teammate, 16 sacks. Tyson Swan's got 15. They look to be a running attack game. Their offense, their quarterback, Malik Gordon, has over 1,000 yards rushing, 1,200 yards passing. He's accounted for 23 touchdowns. But we're not going to sell the Lions short here. Stephen Puckett, 41 catches, almost 900 yards. That leads the county. He has 9 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, he has 5 interceptions on defense. You mentioned Kevin Kern with his 6 touchdowns, 600 yards. He got the 2-point conversion that helped them win the game. And Danny Nelson, Carter Weddle has 4 sacks. They can play defense with the best of them. And if they can limit Lackey early in the game and set the tone, who knows where the Lions could be at the end of the night.
We've seen this Liberty offense at different stages of the year where they've struggled. I think back to the Century game at the end where Peters had just taken over, Case being injured. They only scored 8 points in that last game at home. They also haven't played at home a whole lot, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But
Absolutely.
They can do it a little bit of everything, and that's what really impressed me the other night. Peters was able to air it out. Puckett was great. Weddle was great. Kern on the ground. We've seen what McGlynn can do on the ground as well. They're just such a complete offense, and Brian Peters told me as well, they can't be one-dimensional. They are far from one-dimensional offensively.
Yeah, no doubt. We caught up earlier this week with Lions coach Larry Luth. We were just talking about as he gets Liberty ready for its biggest game in school history, and safe to say, it's been a wild ride.
It turned out to be a shootout, so as a coach, I think I was more tired after that game than I have been in a long time. Their offensive coordinator was actually on our staff for about 6 years, Matt Schilling. So, it's always great to go against people that you respect and you really think are great people. And so going against Matt was fun, and it was an awesome atmosphere for Saturday night. Everybody turned out, so it was a great stage, and the outcome was what you want, what a Liberty fan wanted, and so we were really excited. The energy was great, and we're excited that we got to get together again for another week, get to spend another week together. I think the season started with our first home game getting canceled, and we have to go down and figure out how we're going to play at Western Regional Park, and that kind of attitude, and we just kind of roll with the punches, and we played really well that night. Came up short, played really well. Felt like we played really well against Westminster. Came up short, but like you said, after every time we came up short, we seem to have this ability to bounce back, and it was a blessing to be able to kind of get rid of some of the bad taste we left in our mouth after the Middletown loss, because that was probably, that was an ugly game. We had some games we haven't played our best, but that one was it just got away from us. So.
Our thanks to Coach Luth. We are going to shift to Westminster. Here's a look at the Liberty bracket. Before we get over to Westminster, just one thing, Nathan. Resiliency. You hear Coach Luth talking about it. They've been resilient all year long. They've been in some close games. The knock on them was they couldn't win the close games for a lot of years. They won a bunch of them this year, and that's one of the reasons they're in the 2A, 1A state semifinals.
Yeah, they win by 2 at Williamsport. They come back from that rough defeat at Middletown, and they get the forfeit. Then they win by 1 at Hereford on the road. But one note that I will say before we move on, they're 0-3 at home this year.
Yeah.
You've heard Coach Luth mention they had the first home game at Western Regional Park, then they lost to Westminster 19-13, lost to Man Valley 10-0, and then lost to Century 13-8. So not only is this only their 4th home game of the season, it would be their first win at home this year if they're able to pull it off.
They're due. Now let's shift over to Westminster, another team that had some home game issues earlier on because of the situations. The Lions are riding a 10-game winning streak, and they're home Friday night at 6:30 to take on Oakdale. Westminster handed Guilford Park its first loss of the season in dominant fashion, led by a defense that had 3 turnovers, Nathan. We're going to see some of the highlights from the game. You and I watched this one from the studios here. I just feel like defense was the takeaway. I thought the dominant way Westminster won this game and giving Guilford Park its first loss.
Yeah, Braden Troop right here sets the tone for Westminster, forcing Tyler Lee, the best running back in the state of Maryland, to fumble. More on that as well later on. But that was our key to the game, right? Can Westminster be able to stop Tyler Lee? They did that. And Rory O'Connor in this offense, they took a while to get going, Pat, but once they found Isaiah Taylor here, that's where it felt like they hit blast off.
His second catch of the year, you mentioned it. I noticed that as well. It's just a crazy way for him to be incorporated because he can catch the ball. And then we saw this touchdown pass here by O'Connor too. He got out of a couple of those pressures early in that when they were on those scoring drives, and that led them obviously to some success on offense. But the offense did enough to get by. The defense got things going. And speaking of offense, Guilford Park can certainly put it up, as we saw Reed Wright, the quarterback, connect with Anthony Griffin, their top receiver on the evening.
Yeah, that was over 170 yards between the two of them in that game alone. That was really the lone bright spot consistently throughout the night for Guilford Park, but Braden Troop continued to be a spotlight for Westminster.
Yeah, that was very close to being a pick six. You called it on the broadcast. And instead, Salcido, I think it was, the defender, sort of jumped the route, Troop turned, and there was no one there down the sideline. He's just as fast as some of those guys on the field, too. And they're up 2 scores here late in the second half. And did almost, Guilford Park that is, almost score here, incomplete pass in the back of the end zone. Couldn't get the feet down. But again, the defense ends this half, as you'll see. It just felt like they were doing this all night. Once they got it going, there's Noah Paisley with the strip sack. I think Barrett Tozer falls on it. Noah Paisley on the right side, if you will. Isaiah Taylor on the left, a formidable duo for Westminster's front.
More than formidable. I mean, that's one of the top duos in the state that's remaining, and maybe out of the state overall. Just statistically, we can go down the line later, but Taylor over 12 sacks this year. That was coming into the game, over 20 tackles for loss. He had a big strip right there. Warfield with the recovery. And
two fumble recoveries did Warfield.
Right.
So
it just stays with the theme that Westminster's defense is what won them this game.
I don't know what this was. I asked the guys this week what that was. They said, we don't care what it looked like as long as it worked. And so
that's why I think I called on the broadcast. That looked like something the Chiefs would run. I think that during the week they might have been like, let's just add a spin in there just to try and throw them off.
I think we saw it twice in this game, actually. But again, just defense galore, and the kneel down never felt sweeter for Westminster. They're back in the semifinals for the first time since 2012, as you see them posing there with the victory. Look, again, go on the road. We talked about a couple guys on Liberty's defense. Here's a couple guys on offense. Look at the average. Look at the yards per catch. I always call it the yak, but because they both get good yards after the catch. But just take a look at the way that they've got, 14 combined touchdowns and 48 catches between them. I mean, pick your poison if you're Oakdale's defense.
It feels like it's only a matter of time when you're watching Westminster to whether Troop or Howard makes one of those big plays. It took Howard until the third quarter to really get involved the other night. I expect Westminster to really try and get him going early on Friday when they face the Bears.
Yeah, and the Bears, speaking of the Bears, Frederick County stalwarts, Oakdale, just 2 losses this year, 9-2 overall. They lost to Linganore, which is still playing, and Middletown, which was playing, and we talked about Middletown. So they're tough customers from Frederick County. You see there last week, knocked off South River to advance, but they get to go on the road. The points for raises some eyebrows, 419 compared to just 144 allowed. Meanwhile, Westminster at 372 and 116 against, and I'll say it again, since week 4, the Owls are 287 points for and just 46 points against. Held Guilford Park to 6 points last week, a team that was blowing people out convincingly. So this game will be different. They're all different as we go along. You know, the Bears quarterback, Alex Rodriguez, he's gone for over 1,500 passing yards. He runs the ball pretty well. The Bears don't have 1 or 2 guys that stand out, but they have a bunch of guys who do a lot of things really good, and that's the reason they're here.
Yeah, I mean, you go down the list. Rodriguez, of course, over 1,000 passing and rushing. Shemaiah Hill, over 600 rushing. Andrew Wilson, over 400 rushing. Charlie Alt and Josiah Cobb each have over 600 receiving. So it's not just 1 or 2 guys. It's honestly pretty similar to Westminster, where they have Hitchcock and Comfer and Doan on the ground. And then in the air, Troop and Howard, like we've mentioned. So it's not going to be one player taking over. You're going to see 5 or 6 guys on both sides really making an impact.
Yeah, and we'll break this all down on Friday as well, because we're going to have live coverage of the games. We'll talk about that more in a second. But we had a chance earlier in the week to talk to Chris Bowser, the coach, as Westminster got ready for its first state semifinal in 13 years. Let's go ahead and hear from the coach. Coach, I didn't want to oversell it as we watched your game on Friday, but has to be one of the more impressive and, memorable wins, and definitely in your career as Westminster's coach, maybe in the school's history, just about this because of the stakes and where you were. I know it's been a couple days. Let it sink in. How pleased were you with the effort on Friday night? A+, I thought.
Yeah, I thought we played. I thought we've been playing well, and that just continued. And we always try to focus on how we play and not who we play. And if you do that, it shouldn't matter who the opponent is. But when you play an opponent the quality of Guilford Park and you play like we did Friday, it definitely felt good, But it's another tough week this week, another new challenge, and we're just trying to get our feet back on the ground and get back to work.
We've talked about the offense and how high flying it's been, but the defense has been playing well too. I think they gave themselves, hey, don't forget about us. It was that kind of a showing Friday to stop one of the state's top players in Tyler Lee on Guilford Park. Like you said, another tough customer in Oakdale this week, but how are you pleased with the way the defense has come along here late in the season?
I think we're focused on playing complementary football. And if you're going to advance deep into playoffs, both sides of the ball have to be doing what they want. And we've been talking for weeks now about limiting the big plays on defense and tackling well and getting off blocks and on offense, sustaining drives, ending drives in the end zone. And the last couple weeks, we've played two high-powered offenses, very different, but two high-powered offense, and the offense has done a good job of finishing drives in the end zone, and we've done a good job on defense about slowing them down. And it's made the difference, and another big challenge this week.
Yeah, and this week coming up, I mean, it's funny to have a goal as practicing Thanksgiving week and Thanksgiving morning, which you guys get to do if you make it this far. What's the attitude like with these guys? They were sky high, I know, after this Friday game, but it's right back to work, like you said, in the paper. That's the mentality they've showed all year. Like, they're going to take this Oakdale game as it comes, and they know it's a tough customer, but you get a lot of faith in these guys. They're going to bring their best effort.
Absolutely. I mean, we're pretty familiar with Oakdale. We scrimmage them every year. We know how good they are. We know how well coached they are. We know the challenge that's in front of us. And, we're just trying to take it day by day in practice and just focus on keep getting better. And, again, focusing on us. We want to play our game. And if we do that, then we're going to give ourselves a very good chance to win this one.
Our thanks to Coach Basler. And as you see the 3A bracket, Linganore, Milford Mill on the one side, that's a marquee matchup. But so is the bottom half, Westminster, Oakdale. You heard Coach Basler, Nathan, complimentary football has gotten them this far. It's going to get them to a win if they can do it again. They know Oakdale pretty well. He mentioned the scrimmage, but I think this Owls team is much different than the one that the Bears played in August.
They are. They're healthier. I think that's the most important thing. And then, of course, as any football season goes on, you're just able to gel more. It's one thing when you're together for a week and a half and playing that first contact scrimmage rather than Thanksgiving week, right? And you're practicing, you're having your walkthrough on Thanksgiving morning. So you're going to have those growing pains from time to time. You're going to have the success that Westminster's had as well, just about finding that balance and that complementary football that Coach Baz talked about. And if Westminster's able to follow that motto, I think they've got a good shot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we'll mention before we sign off here about how you can see those games. It'll be Westminster Oakdale at 6:30 on Friday. But now it's time for the latest CMSportsNet Athlete of the Week. We're not done yet with the fall. We'll stick with Westminster football, and we'll talk to a junior who's been a game changer all year long on defense. He was certainly a big reason why the Owls are still playing. Let's find out who it is. Latest CMSportsNet Athlete of the Week, Isaiah Taylor, Westminster football. Isaiah, double-digit tackles, tackles for loss, a couple sacks, I think a forced fumble in there as well. Talk about your guys' preparation for that game against Guilford Park, defensively, just knowing that they were undefeated, you're going to their place, and what was the feeling like to get the win?
We had to come out aggressive. We knew we had to be physical with them. We knew we had to play our type of ball. So we came in there knowing that it was going to be a hard task, but we have a whole bunch of dogs up front, so we really just went and got them.
You told me that you like going after the quarterback,
yes, sir.
Offense, but you made a catch there on Friday, maybe a second catch of the year, I think, if not mistaken. You can make plays on offense when you need to, but just talk about the atmosphere of that game and just what it means to you guys to get that win.
Oh, it just turns the energy up for the next game. Beating them the way we did, that momentum, going through the weeks.
Everyone wants to still be playing in Thanksgiving. I know it's a weird thing to say you want to play on Thanksgiving or practice on Thanksgiving. You guys will be able to do that this week. You scrimmaged Oakdale in the summer. That was a different time, a long time ago.
Right.
You guys are a different team. They might be different too, but this group doesn't really feel like it's worried about who they're playing. If you play your game, you're going to feel like you're going to come out on top. What do you have to do to get a win this week against Oakdale?
Honestly, again, we just got to play our game. If we play our game, we're going to be sound on defense, sound on offense, making plays on defense because we have the dogs up front. And then we have offense where, our offense is. We got some dogs on there too. So, yeah.
You and Noah have a little competition between each other about who's going to get to the quarterback first, because you guys both go after the quarterback on the edge, Noah Paisley. What's it like playing on the other side with a guy like him?
Oh, it's just knowing that I have another player with me that can make plays as well. So I know that if he scrambles to that side, he's down. So, yeah.
And going up against, that team last week, Guilford Park, good team. We heard all about Tyler Lee. You guys were able to stop him. He got some yards at the end, but by then you guys have control of the game.
Right.
Can you feel on the field when the momentum is changing like that? Because that's their playmaker. So you guys neutralize the playmaker, you got a good chance. You could feel them starting to be like, man, this isn't going to go our way, and you guys could capitalize on that.
Yeah, honestly, I felt that in the beginning of the game when I first went out there, making that, I think it was a tackle for loss, but yeah, I feel like that shifted the momentum.
Sets the tone,
yeah.
Right? How excited are you guys to still be playing and get a chance of going to a state championship game?
We're very excited, especially practicing on Thanksgiving. Not everybody gets to do that, so that's always a goal.
Something to be thankful for, right? All right, congrats on the great win and good luck this week.
Thank you.
CMSportsNet's Athlete of the Week is brought to you by Barnes Bollinger Insurance. We're here for the home team. And by Freedom Federal Credit Union, recognizing excellence both on the field and in our communities.
Boy, these guys have a different outlook on Thanksgiving than I do. They'd rather be playing. I'd rather be having fun eating. But I get it. Congratulations to Isaiah Taylor, the latest CMSportsNet Athlete of the Week. And you can see all the winners from the fall season. Congratulations to all of them. Of course, there were 3 teams playing in state quarterfinals last week. Winners Mill had to go to the Eastern Shore, to Salisbury, take on Wicomico. It didn't end the way that it did for the Falcons, that it did for the Owls and the Lions, but still, we'll see a little bit of the action, courtesy of our friends at Delmarva Sports Network. And it was a rough night for Winners Mill, but hey, the fact that they were there, the fact that they had made put together an 8-win season, we talked about it last week on our broadcast, Nathan. Just hats off to Coach Matt Miller and the Falcons for putting together another great year.
Yeah, they were dominant on the ground throughout the year, and they really were able to find their identity throughout the season. That was the one thing they couldn't get going in this game at Y-High, is they weren't able to get Andalina involved. They weren't able to get Phillips involved. Denning didn't have the same impact that he normally does. And when Wicomico was able to make plays like this where they're just airing it out, it was really tough. Like we've talked about throughout the year, when Winners Mill gets down early, it's very hard with their style of play to come back from multiple scores. That
was Landon Roche to Tayshawn Swan. It was a 28-yard touchdown there, and the PAT was no good. So actually, Y-High was up 6-0. I remember thinking that the Falcons had scored first, but how about this? A trick play that goes to, on the punch, Shamar Mayo fools everybody and got down to the 20-yard line. So, hey, it's that time of the year, right? We saw a fake punt, Liberty. Winners Mill dips into its bag, and it sets up a Falcons touchdown.
Yeah, this is where Winners Mill had its most momentum. Baker gets in. We talked about the 3-headed monster of Andalina, Phillips, and Denning, but it's Baker who was able to get into the end zone, the lone scorer for Winners Mill in that one. Really not much else to show as Y-High went and took it the rest of the way.
Yeah, 30-7 was the final score. There were some other big plays. Winners Mill made some plays on defense, but just too much from the Indians on the Eastern Shore. But again, congratulations to Winners Mill, 8-4 record. So 3 teams were alive. Now we're down to 2. We have 2 state semifinal football games coming your way this Friday night. Lackey and Liberty from the Lions Den in Eldersburg, kickoff 6 o'clock. Nathan will be there for that one. Oakdale at Westminster from Ruby Field, kickoff at 6:30. Greg Mahalka will join me here in the studio, and we'll give you the broadcast there. You can watch those games on our website, www.cmsportsnet.com. You can also catch those games on the NFHS network. And also thank you to Genova's To Go and Absolute Landscapes as sponsors that are helping us make this possible, and we're all looking forward to it Friday night. That'll do it for this episode 87 if you're keeping track, but maybe episode 1 of this version of Game On. As always, we thank you for watching, and be sure to catch all of our high school sports content on the website I mentioned, www.cmsportsnet.com. You can see more of it on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. You can watch us on cable channels 18 and HD 1072, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at CMSportsNet Action. For Nathan Schwartz, I'm Pat Stoetzer. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
CM Sportsnet is made possible by Carroll Links, Carroll Indoor Sports Center, and independent car service.
There's a lot about Sarah and Tara that's exactly alike. They drink the same coffee, they have the same great job, and they both have a high-quality education. The only difference? Sarah spent her first 2 years at Carroll Community College, getting the same exceptional education, but at less than half the cost. So while Tara uses her paycheck to make student loan payments, Sarah can use hers for other things, like going out for coffee. Get started at carrollcc.edu.
Carroll Indoor Sports Center, celebrating its 30th season. 66,000 square feet of fields and courts. Rain or shine, multiple soccer and lacrosse leagues. Artificial turf fields and courts to rent. Party rooms and snack bar available. Summer camp for the kids. Safe indoor environment for athletes of all ages. Carroll Indoor Sports Center. Your sport, anytime.